Hey, this is Curtis from PhotoBreak. Today I'm going to share with you some secrets on getting better backyard bird photographs. What you really want to do is set out some bird seed, and you want to choose the location very carefully. Part of it is to get the birds to come, which most of us have had a bird feeder at some point in our life, right? That might not necessarily make a good photograph where you've got that bird feeder. So the location is super important. The other thing that's important is actually where you place the bird seed. I, as you can see over my shoulder, have a bird feeder set up, but when I'm here to take photographs, I take that feeder down because I also feed my birds on the ground, on logs, and on perches. Now, a perch can be a very simple thing like this twig, which I've actually used to push in a bird feeder, and it makes a much more pleasing subject than a bird on a bird feeder. They land on this first, and then they'll go get the bird seed. The other thing I like to do is find unusual shapes of logs and limbs and use them as perches. So that's another consideration when you're setting up a bird station, is to find unusual, pleasing perches for birds to land on. Along with a perch, what you want to have as a consideration is your background. You want a very pleasing background. You want to create what photographers love to say is bokeh. Bokeh basically is a Japanese word, and it just means having an aesthetic, pleasing, out of focus background. So your subject shows up primary, not your background. One of the ways of creating good bokeh is to have a lot of distance between the subject, your perch, and your bird, and the background. Typically, I'm trying to use at least 15-30 feet behind my subject so that that gets out of focus and creates a nice, creamy bokeh. Depending on how close you are, that also enhances that bokeh. If I'm here to photograph birds, typically I'm going to bring my blind. Now, these birds are pretty habituated to me. In fact, so much so that they know I'm going to show up between 7:30 and 9 o'clock to feed them. Every day, whether I take pictures of them or not, I'm going to feed these birds. I want to make sure they have a constant food source. And water. I change their water regularly. But if I'm here to take photographs, I'll use my blind. And what that does is that enables me to move around a little bit more and not distract those birds. All they're basically seeing is my lens sticking out of my blind. Now, do you need a blind to photograph backyard birds? No. There are times, honestly, I just use a chair and sit, and as long as you're still and very slow in your movements, these birds after a while will get habituated to you, and you'll have no problem taking pictures of those birds. So the background's important, the perches are important. Another consideration, what I like to call set dressing, is seasonally I will take wildflowers, put them in the background or put them on my perches, and just create a really cool looking subject for the birds to land on. That's another thing that really can enhance your perch, is using a set dressing. Okay, so after you have your feeding station set up, and it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks. You know, you start getting the birds coming in, you start realizing where they land, and then you can start putting out perches depending on, you find out where they land, you want to hop down here and then get to the bird seed. So today we're just doing a little set dressing where I've got some pretty flowers I've found, and I'm going to put these in the background, so hopefully you'll get a nice bokeh in the background of like this purple flower coming through. Yeah, so let's get going. Birds are hungry. I use just an old screwdriver, just poke a hole in the ground. Seems to work. Keeps things steady for the most part. All right, let's see what that looks like. So let me go in a more detailed approach on how I make a perch and actually put that into the ground. Okay, I found a really nice stick that I'm going to use for my perch, and it's really got a nice unusual design. The top of it actually looks like a woodpecker, so I'm really hoping one of my woodpeckers lands on this thing. Next thing we need to do is actually just cut it down to size. I like a length of about, I'm gonna say up to here. I try to keep my perches low, and obviously, like all the good woodworking tips, is you can always cut it long and cut it down, but you can't cut it short and add to it. So once we make this smooth cut, the next step is going to be to drill a hole for our support system. There's a lot of good solid wood in here for me to drill a hole, which I'm excited about, because sometimes these older boards, they're just pretty much rotten in the center as well. This one is not, so we're good to go. Okay, here gives you a little bit of close-up of the nails that I use. These are aluminum nails, so they hold up really well. And all I need to do is just knock off this head. And what I do is I have a grinder. I'm just going to grind that down smooth like this one. And that way I'll just drill a hole and slide these things up, ready to use. You could cut them with a hacksaw. I've seen people actually even use a chop saw, but I'm a little nervous about something this hard and small to use on a chop saw. So I just find it easier to use my grinder. The final step is to drill the hole, and that's just a matter of finding the right drill bit. I think that one will do. And again, you can always make it bigger with a bigger sized drill bit, but you can't make it smaller, so better to start off small. Let's try to get as straight as we can. Now that's perfect. And now that we got the nail in there, it should just go straight into the ground. Perfect. Again, it's not going to hold the weight of a possum or a raccoon, but for birds, this is just absolutely perfect. On a recent trip to Alaska, I set up a bird station in my sister's backyard. She had plenty of stumps to use as perches. As you can probably see in the back, I've got some birch trees or aspens. I'm not really sure what they are. But the woodpeckers have been showing up here daily, especially on the logs, to, get their source of insects. So what I'm trying to do is encourage them to get in here and get the suet. So I'm going to drill some holes into this with a drill. You can see the bit is just this big. That'll work. And now we can pack it full of suet, and hopefully they will enjoy that little treat, and I'll get a nice photo out of it. I want to put some branches here on the side for them to land on, so easy way to do that is just get a drill with a nice drill bit like that and go to town. Okay, and once you got the hole, it's just a matter of finding the right perch, the right stick, This one seems a little big, so we'll try this one. Yeah, fits perfect. Now I'm probably going to feed them up here, but typically they like to land on a perch first and then go to the food. I found that to be the case. So yeah, especially if I'm setting this up a little bit higher. So that's really my intention here, is to get them to land on this perch. Might put one on the other side as well. Okay. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed that video, please consider subscribing, smash the like button. If you have a question, a comment, leave them below and I'll try to get back to you on that. Till then, this is Curtis from Photo Break, where I break for photos.